Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of On Point on our mother station focus on Liberia. I have with me today my special guest, analyst, someone that has a deep knowledge of Liberian politics and issues in the Republic. Mr. Isma is here with me. Mr. Isma, how are you doing today and where you coming in from?
Hey, Jerome, thank you for inviting me. Very interesting topics today. I'm just flying back from Florida. I've been on the beach for a couple of days.
I see you're
But
10.
yeah, that's a permanent tan. But this is a liberation should bring. We hope we can bring things to light and where we can educate and inform the people. But thank you again for the invitation.
Yes, and today's topics, we want to lay the groundwork. For me, particularly, I grew up in the 70s. I was at Basel High School in the 70s. 1977, 78, I was approached by a group of young men. I was much older than we were. They were sent by Deacon Carter, and that group was led by one gentleman by the name of McIntosh. They approached me and few other young men, and they asked us to be representatives of this new movement called PAL. And they explained why PAL was important. And I became a leader of the youth wing, the young folks at Basel High School for the PAL movement. And the movement was that the country had been led for 133 years, and things were just not going right. That the wealth and privileges of the nation have been stagnated, and they drew a pyramid. And that pyramid at the very, very top were less than 0.005% of the population. And at the base of this pyramid was everybody else. So we young folks at the time, I was 17, we all bought into it because it was a no-brainer. And the question was, what is it that we get in return? And he said, we are doing all we can to make sure that we get multi-party democracy, where you, as a poor man's son and daughters, you have nothing to gain, but the only thing you have is your franchise. At least you should be able to vote for whomever you choose. And we bought into that. Constitutional multi-party democracy. So where am I going with this? The world have decided that the constitutional court system in Liberia is flawed and corrupt. The poor man or poor woman cannot, cannot get justice in the court system in Liberia. So for God's sake, the common man, the common woman can get even with the big shots. And the only thing that you have to your disposal in your arsenal is that one vote. One man, one woman, one vote. And if the court system is flawed and corrupt, your only weapon is when that curtain is closed or wherever you are and you have your pen or your pencil, you can get even with the power that be. So they sold this to us, that if you do this and do it right, you should fight for this because it's worth dying for. This brings me to the elections commissions here. The elections commission serve at the highest court in a corrupt nation like Liberia. I listened to Deacon Carter at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's hearing. He said, Bishop Brown came to him in Bako at night and said, if you apply for a permit to march and the government denies you, take your case to the Supreme Court. And Bishop Matthew looked him in the eye and said, Bishop, you are wasting your time. I am not going to take Tolbert to James A. Pierre. It is not going to happen. I am not a fool. So this brings me to why, if no institution in the Republic of Liberia has integrity, it has to be the Elections Commission. So let's look at the topics today. The National Elections Commission's NEC, we call them, with the host. Well, we are talking about what is going on today at the NEC, where the NEC's boss, brother, the saga there is the NEC's boss, the big boss. It used to be big man, now it's a big woman. Her brother was able to get the contract that in America we call sweetheart deal. It is strictly nepotism. And Jimmy Eastman, I know you're going to help me with it because you know what I'm talking about. And the pain that you and I are going through to see where our country is. The National Elections Commission, where you and I have our equal votes. We talk about equal value votes. Now, how do we consider or take our election commissioners seriously? These people are making decisions that could put our country back into war. People have died for this. And here we are in a country with meager resources. So usually our show is into three parts. We will discuss, we have the analysis, then we will have the audience to either make their comment or call in and share with us their feelings. This is a very, very serious and personal topic that everybody should have interest in. This particular subject. And we want to let our partners know that my right-hand man, Mr. Tule, is out today preparing for a national examination, and he wouldn't be here. So we are grateful to you, Mr. Eastman, for taking a short notice and coming on to discuss the issues that are pertinent to our people, very important. And it means a lot because it leads into 2023. So we need to be balanced. I am a supporter of the president. I have to make that disclaimer, but yet and still we have to hold our feet to the fire. So
very good.
While you are there, I will let you to read the topic from your end, and then let's lead right into it.
All right. From my end, in fact, let me just say this. You've said a mouthful because you mentioned the economic distribution of wealth of a country. And the scenario that you described that you were conveyed to you by Deacon Carla and them is the scenario in many countries in the world. That is not uncommon that only a few enjoy the majority of the wealth. That is not uncommon at all. I think what we have to always consider when we want to correct something is to go about it in the correct way. Because if we go about it the wrong way and make the situation worse, then we have done ourselves a disfavor. So, yes, there are many things that we want to correct, but it has to be done in the correct way. And don't be surprised that few people have the majority of wealth, because that is a very common phenomenon, even here in the U.S. You know, I think it's less than 5% control the bulk of the wealth of the U.S., the most wealthy people. Too bad your brother Tule is not here today, but I'm going to try to do him justice because I know he frequently took an opposing view to you. But I will be as critical and as much as the devil advocate as I can be. You are very correct when you said that one of the election commission is one of the pillars of our democracy. And if that is not functioning properly, then that will erode our entire democracy. Another most important institution of our democracy is one of three different groups: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. And of course, if our judiciary, which interprets the law, if they are not interpreting the law as it should be, fairly and justly, giving everybody a fair shake, then again we will erode our democracy. So it's quite important that both our courts are free of bias, free of manipulation, free of corruption, and essentially our election commission must be autonomous, must be in full integrity, and have commissioners of the highest esteem when it comes to honesty and integrity. So it is alarming that we hear this now. Because the case is still being investigated, we don't have all the merits now. But I would like to look at why should this have even happened? Shouldn't we insulate our commissioners, our ministers, our elected officials from activities that could be misinterpreted as corrupt?
Okay, let me hold you right there. Let me give a background why we are here, and we are not picking on the Elections Commission.
Right.
But for those of our audience who do not know the background, the saga begins at the NEC, the National Elections Commission, the saga. And let's go through the bullet points here.
All right.
Let's go to the next one. I know this is the saga. We'll be talking about nepotism. And I know you're going to define for me what nepotism is. We know that our audience knows, but we will define it in the nuance what nepotism is. What's the next one there? The exorbitant cost to lease the thermometer. The question there is rent versus buy. Would it make sense if you're spending that much money that you own it at the end of a certain period of time? Why would you continuously spend government money that you will not own anything that has no value? Let's go to the next. What should the LACC do? The LACC is the department, the autonomous agency that's supposed to investigate corruption in the government or in the country as it is. What is it that they are doing? We are looking forward to that. We want to discuss it a little bit. You touched on that a little bit. Can we go to the next one, please? Few months ago, Mr. Ure made an assertion, an allegation, that he got an inside source from the Elections Commission that the information or the document, a framework document that was submitted by Alexander Cummings was flawed, was changed, was doctored. Now, if you, as the NEC, that's supposed to be totally autonomous and independent, if you are leaking information to certain people, certain groups, that says a lot about who you are and your agency. Can we go to the next one, please? And then the enchilada, the big one, I'm from Florida, so with the Spanish people, we know this when we use that word. They buy elections. A few weeks ago, about a month or two ago, there were candidates everywhere that the CDC were basically on its way out. The people did not want the CDC. The CDC has failed. And they had the new up and rising superstar on the airwaves everywhere you go, on social media. and they had these princes in Sherman arms on white horses coming to town to deliver us. And when the elections came through, we are going to look at the results. Who are the losers? Who are the winners? And what lesson should the CDC, the opposition, and the independent candidates learn from this? So, Mr. Eastman.
Yes, sir.
This is your platitude. You just came from Florida. You were on the beach. You went to some of the best restaurants, and you saw how they serve you when they serve you. It comes on a platter. You have a platter here. So let's start with the saga. You, as an engineer, a businessman, you know about procurement. You have been through the grant system. You have applied for a loan, and there are criteria, and you know this. Right. Now, here we are, the NEC. Someone came up with a great idea that, listen, in this pandemic, it would make sense if we have these automated thermometer where people walk through and they have facial recognition. And they will tell you if your temperature is above 100, and that will give a red flag for which you will not be allowed to enter the building or the facility, which is a great idea. The NEC agrees to purchase these devices. From what I understand from the performer that we saw, there were 20 of the machines purchased. The setting up, the coordination, the software, and everything. From what we gather from Amazon, the exact replica, the exact equipment is being sold for like $1,499, $1,500 max. 20 of those should be, you know what. But at the end of the day, the government of Liberia paid $180,000 for 20 of these machines. And as the people dug a little deeper, they found out the question was, who sold these equipment to the government? Who owned the corporation? Who wrote the check? How was this contract given out? How was it awarded? What was the bid process? We came to find out after digging a little deeper that the corporation is owned, partly owned by one Mr. Brown. And as they dug a little deeper, it just so happens that the person that is now running the NEC is also a Brown.
Yes.
The connection was made that Mr. Brown is a brother to the NEC director.
Who is Davietta Brown.
Davietta Brown.
Correct.
So here we are, $182,000. I, as a partisan, as a supporter of this government, those of us who were beating Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and her children and her family, this is far cry from the 80 million, whatever million that Robert Sirleaf squandered and all of that, but yet and still, it is still nepotism, it is still corruption. So what says you about $182,000 for a thermometer and the way it was purchased and to whom the contract was given?
Thank you. You know, you said if you love your country, if you love your party, you always, just like you love your child. If your child is going the wrong direction, you say, don't go that direction. Let's try it. So we who love our country, we will always say what is true, and we'll always try to make whatever necessary correction, opinions that will help navigate. My man, brother Jerome, here's my whole point about it. Is it in fact legal for you to tell somebody they can't vote if they have COVID? They just conducted elections here in the U.S. in certain states, in Virginia, where I'm located. There were no machines checking people's temperature. COVID is all about. But you had to maintain a distance and you had to wear coverings as required. There was nobody being signaled out for COVID. Is it legal? Where is it in the Constitution say when you get a cold or you can't go vote? Is that constitutional? So the whole hoax of this thermometer is circumspect. Is it legal? What they were doing, is it in fact legal? You know, and that's where I have to start there, because are you disenfranchising people? You just mentioned that one of the greatest gifts we have as citizens of Liberia is that right to vote. That is a holy right that we have, that franchise to vote. Now, what the Election Commission was implementing was, in fact, to stop certain people from voting.
Well, not exactly so, because remember we have over 7,000 polling places.
Yeah.
These were 20. These were meant for the offices where the big bosses are. You can't come in there to see them while you're sick. So it's a little different.
It's not for voting.
No, it's not for voting. It's for the offices. There are 20 machines at the different offices. As you come in to see the big boss lady, you got to make sure that you don't have anything. So you come in and your facial records. We have it here at the school district. When I'm going in there to the school board meeting, I have to go through one of those. So it's not for the voting. But you say you talk about the legality, and if somebody asks this question, the particular question, but not in that light, and the question was, is it legal for the NEC to give a contract of that magnitude without going through the bidding process?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys from that agency came out and said, yes, legally, the law says anything under $200,000 can be singly sourced. Anything 200,000 and above has to go through the bidding system. So you see how cleverly they did this. They came close to the 200,000 mark and stopped at 182. So they circumvented the process of going through the bidding process.
Yes.
Stop at 182.
Apparently, just so here they coming up with these machines that cost just under where they would have been required to go through that bureau they have right by the executive mansion. I forgot what the name of that bureau, but before you can get a government contract, you have to go through this whole process. You have to register and all of that before you can get one. Now, the thing about it is, since they did not have to go through that process, did they follow any honest or public way for awarding that contract? So what they would be required to do now, they will be required to say, you gave this contract to this company, XYZ. What process did you follow to give that contract? And if they did not make it fair, if it was not open, regardless of them having to go through the government board or the government office that does this, they still have to follow a fair practice. So in the investigation, they were going to want to know how they went about. But what I was curious of reading, they said all the commissioners are, that was the headline, all the commissioners are under investigation. I wouldn't think that all the commissioners would have been involved in awarding this contract to one person, you know? So again, where are we going with this? First of all, why was this done this way? And second of all, why was the cost arbitrarily reached? If we found out $1,500 to buy a thermometer, so why? The next thing you have to explain is why are you leasing it? So there are a couple of things to explain here. First of all, how you went about awarding it, and what was the logic of leasing it as to buying it. So I think, regardless of how this will turn out, they've got some explaining to do, and
Well,
I don't,
you see what we just put on the board here. Their explanation is it is not only a thermometer, but it has a facial recognition. So I don't know whether because it has an artificial intelligence, meaning that it goes from 1,500 to 25,000 or from 1,500 to 50,000. It makes no sense, but this is what they say it is. Now let's kind of segue into another character issue with the NEC. Let's look at the leak. Okay. Bernardo
Okay.
Ure says he was tipped off by some, and obviously we have to be fair to the NEC. These are allegations, and the LACC, which is the autonomous agency that's supposed to investigate these things, they are investigating, like you say. If you have 7 or 8 or 9 board members, their job, every board has a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that their integrity, their funding, that everything that is sent to the NEC, it has integrity, it is spent, they follow the law. So the investigator may want to know what the commissioner A do when that contract came, because somebody, they have to approve it. Even though it was single sourced, they have to get reason why that contract should be given to this particular person.
Exactly.
And why there was never a red flag when the name Brown came up, when nobody could say, hey, Brown to Brown, this is a red flag. If this Brown, do you have any relationship with the CEO? And if you do, this should be a no-go zone. So yes, they all have to be on an investigation as it is. But let's go to the leak here. Someone calls another leader, another political party leader, behind the back of the other political party leaders and say, somebody brought a document here, but we suspect that the document is doctored. It was upon that call from the NEC that brought the CPP to this review here. So what we are saying here, you can see the drip and drop here. For what I saw, the NDC had done an excellent job with the elections, and Dara Dillon and the rest of the guys that went against the Midas CDC can attest that they all had their reps in these polling places. They all count together, they agree, and they all sign off on it. And that particular paper, it is stuck on the wall for the public to see. So the transparency is clear. So we are not saying that the NEC is doctoring result. We are not saying that. We are saying there is a cloud, and now it has become habitual. The drip and drop. It
The
is
leakage.
bringing. We are talking about repetition of organization here. What do you make of this leak that somebody from within, one of the commissioners or somebody in the know, called the opposition party and saying, hey, the document here has been doctored, whether it was fair, whether it was true, but somebody from within tip off Mr. Ure.
that whole saga, I found that interesting, because if things were changed in the documentation and you are a signatory to that, I questioned, why did it have to go public in such a manner? Why wasn't there a meeting convened with the heads and questions asked as to, were the verbiage in our agreement changed, altered without our knowing. I think the fact that it went on public display, I'm not too sure it was a leak. I just think it was a strategy. I don't really believe it was a leak, my brother Gabe. I think it was a strategy to sort of throw a bombshell in the public as to despoil or thwart someone else's progress, at the same time bringing disrepute to the organization, because the way it was handled in the public, in such a public manner, it doesn't very make much sense to me. I only see this as a strategy to spoil the waters, to taint the waters. And
if that is the case, then why at the end it was agreed to and admitted to that there were few changes made, but the changes were made by the leak of minds. So obviously somebody from within there knew something that eventually, when everybody denied that it never happened, at the end they agreed that yes, something did happen, but everybody said they didn't do it, but they agreed something happened. So somebody from within the NDC knew something that we didn't know about, and it came to fruition that yes, it was true that the document was tampered with.
but Brother Jerome, you just said they agreed that their legal people were going to change something. They agreed to it. All the leaders of the group, Mr. Uri, Mr. Boakai, Mr. Cummings, Ms. Yombly, all of them agreed that the legal professionals would adjust the document accordingly so that it remains legally profound, intact. They agreed to that.
Yeah, but the idea, whatever happened on the CPP end, to me, have very little to do with what we are talking about, except that it was triggered. The conversation was triggered from within the NEC. And that has something to do when you talk about an organization that is the nerve center of credibility outside the court system. And within that system, someone is leaking. Basically, that person is serving as a mole within the system itself. And that is dangerous. That is dangerous because we are talking about elections 2023. Can you imagine somebody from within the NDC is calling and tallying votes? I'm saying this because 2011, we saw the election between President Weah and former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The Fromoya came out and called the election for the CDC. And then a few minutes later came back and said, no, it was an error. I switched my numbers around, but Ellen won. Can you imagine what would have happened in these times? I'm not talking, because during those days, Ambassador Weah and everybody else, ECOWAS, everybody wanted everything to be perfect. Can you imagine now that we do not have 15,000 troops? We do not have ECOWAS. We do not have the United Nations on the ground. That someone come out and say, Jimmy Eastman won the election. And then Jimmy Eastman and his boys and girls, they are dancing. And all of a sudden I come back and say, no. The number was transposed. Jerome Gamer is now the winner. So you see where we are coming from with the integrity thing when it comes to an institution that should be above the fray when it comes to integrity. This is an integrity institution, my friend.
I agree.
The reason Mr. Undueke Bueke, whatever his name is, was not confirmed, and he was beaten up because they said he was a man who lacked integrity.
Right.
To head an integrity institution at the Elections Commission. And we brought in Devietta Brown because she was a straight shooter, highly qualified, well educated, knows the system very well. And now we are saying she's using the same knowledge and knowing the system to circumvent the system. And I'm telling you, I am aghast And I think Liberian people should hold this one, should not let this one go by. The LNCC has to get to the bottom of this. And I think a lot of heads, not one, lots of heads should roll. Not just get fired, but get persecuted for this. This is roguish, this is unpatriotic, and this is just bad optics. Period. Now let's go to the elections here. I know we are running out of time. I told our folks that we're going to be here just an hour before we take some calls and go through our comments. But let's go to the election. Can we put up the by-election, please, the topics? Okay, so we're going to go to the by-elections here. The results. You have been reading, you have been following the elections in Liberia, the by-elections. We all have agreed that the by-election will be, excuse me 1 minute. The by-election will be a telltale sign for our folks. The by-election will tell what the real elections is going to be like. Like we say in the old country, if your Christmas is going to be good, you should know it by the eve. So this is Christmas Eve when it comes to the elections here. We had an opposition. You saw Mr. Cummings. You saw he visited Nimba several times. You saw he visited Bong. Actually, people say he lived out there. And every time he came, you saw the crowd. I would say between 100 to 200,000 people showed up when he came in. Same thing with Julius Howard Taylor. Same thing with McGill. Same thing with Mr. Musa Ability. Same thing with Joseph Boyka when they went to Bumi. Same thing when Dara Dillon and Nyobli Kanka went to Bumi. But what happened? Mr. Eastman, you followed this. Tell me why.
You know, it was a very interesting, some very interesting results, and some surprising results. We know there is a new party, a new kid on the block, a new party that won a couple of seats, and this party, prior to the by-elections, I had never heard of this party. And they beat out big parties like the CPP, the CDC. They even won in strategic areas. But you know, they have this slogan that politics is always local. When that man or woman goes into that booth to cast that ballot, you don't know, is that between she and her conscience and her God, right? So you can have all the fanfare, right? All the T-shirts, all the band blowing. But how many people were actually committed to the candidate that you are promoting? And that is where we're going to see some new things develop in 2023. That commitment of people. Not the crowds, not the singing and praising, but are they convinced? Are they loyal? Who are they actually loyal to? And we've seen things changing. And from history, people vote for what they think will be in their interest. So, my brother, if when the election comes, this gone by election proves that if people do not believe that their vote is going to be in their interests, they will change it and vote otherwise. And that is what we saw. That some of those people that were holding up their hands, they didn't have any faith in those people, and they decided that I'm going to vote for somebody who I think will do something for me. That's what we saw the other day. And in other words, it's a dark horse. We don't know what may happen between now and 2023, as you were alluding to.
So
but there
let's
may
look.
be a dark horse in the race that we haven't seen yet.
Okay, for the resources and the personalities that were involved, if you were to do your own personal analysis, who will you apportion if we were apportioning blame or putting people in the losers column? How will you stack them up? Who are the real losers in this, and why do you think they are losers or winners?
I would like let's start with the winners. The winners are those who successfully gathered support and convinced people enough to want and put them in this position. Um, the ones you refine as losers, I would say those people, those ones you call in losers, those ones who have spent a lot of money and did not succeed. I want them to be learners. I wouldn't call them losers. I'll use another L word, learners. You need to learn that the way you did it last time did not work. Like I like the Bummy election was very interesting because I believe they had Snow had his person that he was supporting, Senator Snow, and then they had one of the former um, ch- chairman of the House, the Speaker of the
The
House.
Speaker of the House,
Yeah, he
Tyler,
was. Huh?
Tyler.
Tyler was running. I believe he would have CDC support. So you would have thought that CDC would, the mighty CDC, with all the majority of the successful majority in 2017 would have defeated, but
Yeah,
evidently,
but CDC was not on the ballot in Bombay. They strategically formed an alliance with Snow, and they did not contest in that race.
wow.
So, this is what we are talking about here. In politics, these guys are saying this man is not educated. This man is not sophisticated enough. We are the CPP. We have the education. We have the exposure. We have the worldview. We can do it better. And the question is, how could a man that you say is not sophisticated, do not have your level of education, outmaneuver you, knowing that he would not win this seat, instead supported somebody that the people on the ground said stood a very good chance, and she came in as an independent. And I'm going to read this to you. Here are the results.
Okay.
In Bombing, we have the CPP candidate in the entire county wound up with 13% of the vote. 13. And this is where Joseph Newman Boyka, former Vice President Joseph Newman Boyka, the Senator for Grand Bassa County, Nyobli Kanga, Darius Dillon, and Cummings campaigned heavily for one Charles Brown, who is a legislative Senate staffer that made a bold pronouncement that I am the next representative. You can rest assured I am the next representative from Bombay County. Here he is. With the whole entourage of the CPP, they got 13. In fact, when you look at the polling places, there was a polling place where Mrs. Lasana had 79 votes, and the four collaborative parties had 4 votes. 4. Now, let's go to Bong County here. There is a gentleman by the name of James Collette. Mr. Collette won the seat. He was a dark horse, won in Bong. And the CPP candidate was Mr. Joshua Better, Better. After the showing of force with Joseph Boykai, we're talking about Mr. Cummings several times. basically camp out there. When he showed up, they say he had close to 200,000 or 100,000 people that show up to greet him, to welcome him into Bon County. He was able to gather 798 votes in the whole district.
Representing what percent?
6.2%. This is the mighty collaborative party, 4 collaborative parties. This is it.
So you asked me, what does that show?
I'm coming.
One person was supported by.
Let me go through this so you can see this.
Yeah.
The CDC came in second in that one. So here we are. We are now.
Wait, which one did VP Taylor support?
Bon County, the CDC, they came in second place.
Okay.
CDC came in second. Now we're in Nimba County. The CDC, obviously, did not support, did not field a candidate, but merged with Prince Johnson's party to put a candidate in place here. But the interesting part is Mr. Swart, that the CPP supported, got 8.3%. So you see, they're going even further downstream. 8.3%. And the independent candidate, Mr. Samuel Brown, got 55.4%. 55.4% of the vote. The funny thing here is Mr. Brown is a former seditious. So you see how this is playing out?
Mm-hmm.
The uneducated folks decided to be basically the chameleon here. They camouflage. They know their strength and they play into their strength. Whoever the popular guy is that the folks want, we are going to support this guy. And this is what happened here. So, Mr. Brown won the seat in Nimba, seriously, defeating everybody else, and he won the seat. So here we are in the political parlance. We are saying, we hear from the CPP, they are saying we are the government in waiting. Former Vice President Joseph Boyka says the young people made an error in 2017. And they have seen it for themselves, and they have told me, they have assured me that it's time that they are going to correct, they're going to self-correct, and it's going to show in the by-elections. And the CPP got 8.3%. So when you look at the political parlance, when you look at the demographic and you look at the graph says, because the CDC came in second everywhere else and won in some area and merged with other folks. So where the CDC didn't win, it came in close second. So what that tells you is the populace is saying, while we are not 100% in love with the ruling party, if we have somebody that we love, we will vote for that person.
Exactly.
But if we don't find somebody that we love and care for, we will stay with the devil we know. The government in waiting didn't even make a case. If they had come in a close third, but you cannot say you're going to compare 55% to 8.3%. The gap is astronomical, it's a gulf. So the CPP that consider themselves a government in waiting thought they were waiting, they were government in waiting. This result shows that they are not even close. So here we are. The numbers doesn't lie. The number wouldn't lie. The number says where we have an independent that we love, our first choice will be the independent. If we don't find a person we love, we are going back to where we came. The number is very close. The ruling party can make the case and say, give us another look. We are very close. Push up, bring us across the line. But when you are less than 10% double digit, for you to say, I am going to make up a difference of 92 percentage point in 20 months, my brother, I've never seen that. It would never happen. So here we are when we talk about the losers here. The CPP is the greatest loser collectively. Individually, the vice president that have made a case that I am the only person that can take down this president because I have the exposure, I have the experience, I have the know-how, I can do it this time, and the young people are going to self-correct. Is the biggest loser in all this when he couldn't crack double digit in these by-elections. Mind you now, we still got some ways to go. But if this, according to Mr. Cummings, it's a past performance, it's a clear indicator of future performance. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the numbers here. If you want to call and join, the number here will be 605-313-6004. And the code is 791403 hashtag to join the conversation. Before you come in, I will allow our station to self-identify within a few seconds. And when we come back, we'll take some call, read our comment, and then go to our final segment.
All right.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome back to Focus on Liberia's On Point. With me is my co-host today, my guest host, Mr. Jimmy Eastman, who is here to give us some light. We need to be very objective. We are going to go and start reading our comments. And
let me just make a statement real quick.
Yes. And after you come in, we read a comment, and then if there's any call, we can go to it. So go ahead, Mr. Eastman.
Right. So, Jerome, the results speak for themselves. It shows that those contestants, those parties that did poorly, it means you are really not doing due diligence. In other words, you are not convincing anybody. There are some people that are showing up in front of you and telling you they support you, but it's not the majority of the people. It is clear, the vast majority. Now, how come you are missing this? How come you are not seeing this? Brother Jerome, if I could carry you to Riverside to my grandma place, we call Imoa District, and I tell you, you say you want to be paramount chief, I would tell you, the first thing you have to do, you have to go find out who controls the sentiment in that district, who controls the minds. Because there are leaders amongst leaders. They are not. Some of them are not in the hierarchy of the government, but what they say, the people go with what they say. And when they have their little palaver meeting, or when they have their little elders meeting, they say this is the person who will support. That's who they will support. So if you are not making sure that you are identifying who these leaders are, you will show up dismally like you did in these elections. You don't know who the leaders are. You don't know who the sentiments of the town. You just say you want to rule, but you have to get with the people. You have to know them and who their leaders are and what their needs are. It's been superficial. What I'm trying to say is Their diligence, the performance shows that they have been very superficial in identifying what the people needs are, the direction they want to go, and all of that. So hopefully this is a wake-up call to tell you you don't know the people. And again, I've heard the statements, I'm the only one can beat. I don't think there's nothing more further than the truth, because President Weah has beaten everybody since he's been running. And he is a much more eloquent and a sophisticated politician today than he was. When he first came, he was just a celebrity that tried to get into politics. But today, he's a seasoned politician. So I haven't seen the proof from any other group or candidate that shows me that you are even adept in politics, but yet you claim you can defeat somebody. So this will be another rude awakening in 2023. It will be the same way. You don't know the people. You don't know their leaders. You don't know where they're going. You're just in your own head. So it'll be a fatal mistake again for them. But let the numbers speak for themselves, Jerome. That's all I can say. The numbers speak for themselves. If you don't go back home and take a lesson, and go back to the drawing books, then you'll face the music tomorrow.
Okay, let's go to some comments, and if we have any calls, let's go to the comments. Can you read some of the comments and respond to some? Let's do it one. Let alternate. You want to take the first one? Well,
sure.
Who's that?
Stanley.
Stanley said, "Good evening. Good
evening,
Stanley." You got the next one.
A cutting edge climb said we should take notes.
Clarence Tooney, these people are taking Liberian for a joke, huh? Thanks, God, for giving us these wonderful updates.
Ruben Harris, NEC owns only 2 of those machines. The rest were rented and leased.
Clarence Tooney again. Jerome and Jimmy, do we know that we Liberians are not patriots? We always put our personal interests first before the country's well-being. I couldn't agree with you more.
Cutting Edge Climb says, sack the commissioner immediately. No excuse, and turn her over to the justice to be punished if found guilty. We must set record straight right now. The thing is, I think she will have a lot of, if it's proven that this is a relation to her, you see, we shouldn't be getting involved in it. And this is what I was alluding to first, Jerome. We should insulate our commissioners, the ministers, they should insulate themselves from questionable activity, the thing that will bring the integrity into question. If that was your relative, then you should have had a very, very transparent process so you wouldn't be caught in the quagmire that you find yourself in today. So we'll see what goes on.
Cutting Edge Climb again. How can we trust David Etta Brown with the ravine of our democracy?
Yes, the ravine. That's the river, the flow, everything that are supposed to come from our democracy.
Cutting Edge. This is what we are talking about. Sometimes you don't have to be a thief, okay? But this thing they call appearance. If it appears and people see you, that I meant dress like a grown-up ball. You may not be grown-up, but the way you dress, if they all foresee that you are not appropriately dressed for church, and you come to church with your chest open, your buttons, everybody wearing tie. The next thing they want to know is they don't even want to know whether Jimmy Eastman just got off the airplane and he left his tie. He just rushed into church to pay, and they say, man, he's a grown-up boy, because that's perception. And perception is dangerous. So yes, if the NEC is known to be corrupt or just the appearance that is corrupt, is more dangerous than actually the corruption itself.
Margaret Mapu Dyson, it should be obvious it should be obvious right away to you, because there is no order in the country, neither there and governing body. She said there's no order and no governing body.
Margaret, I want to disagree with you a little bit, but let's go ahead. Thanks, Jerome. Why would anyone ever doubt when Cummings didn't deny anything from the beginning? What's going on, you panelists is referring to, is the strategy the ANC decided to counterpunch after Cummings didn't use his head from the get-go. He blew his own cover, and their comeback punches is only believed by those who support him, those who are clueless to the internal happenings in the ANC party. This is somebody who has a beef.
Yes, apparently she got beef with the ANC.
Yeah, you have maybe not with the ANC, but with Cummings. Somebody who has a beef with Cummings, but this is how it works. Yeah, go ahead.
Stanley, Cummings admitted to harmless charges, so that he tells us that was not the lawyer changes.
Well, I know he used that word harmless. I don't know what it means in the political parlance. When politicians start telling you harmless, that means they're not juke your finger in your eye.
but what Stanley is saying, the fact that you made a blunder. What you have corroborated, established that yes, you indeed did make a blunder. So there was a blunder. Whether it was nefarious or I still believe it was handled in the worst way for anybody who is aspiring to do something together. It was handled in the worst way.
Well, that ego got in the way. Let's go to the next comment.
Sam Wallow. Call them what they are, losers. I think when he was talking about learners, he says losers, and don't try to use fancy consultancy words like learners. I hear you, Sam. Just call them losers, right?
Stanley, that is all tell you the brand CDC can't be sold anymore. It has lost its value. Well, Stanley, if you want to say that CDC has lost all her value, the alternative did worse. So how can you? Your argument is very, very hard to sell. If you say the CDC has lost, it lost it, and it fell from grace to disgrace. But it still beat the alternative by 10 percentage points. So obviously, whoever calling themselves government in waiting has a lot of work to do.
Sam Wallow again. The headline here is the astonishing low voter turnout. Why were CDC and CPP constituents not energized to turn out? Did we get a numbers of how many people voted total?
Yes. The total number voted was 28.93%, about 30%.
30%.
Yes, about third. Sam, in my own town here in Florida, we did a by-election. In one of our districts, we had 30,000 voters. We had 900. We had out of the 30,000, we had 2,900 people that showed up, less than 10%. And the man became city commissioner with 700 votes. Can you imagine? 700 votes. But when it comes to presidential election, governor election in Florida, our turnout in our county here is close to 60%. But when it comes to local, it drops to less than 10%.
Yes, it's very typical.
It's an international democratic principle. People don't care for the local election until it comes to bite them, because little do they know that these people make decisions on their behalf.
Yeah. They're one thing. If I were the president, I would take a note from Rawlings' book. You need to have people in touch with the people in every little community that you can afford, so that you're getting feedback from the people. That way there will be no surprises, you know, and that way you will be able to tell how many people will turn out for, you know, what the local politics is, what our local needs are. And if you are hitting these points on the nail that make people interested because you are talking about the things that matter to them, then it will turn out more. But if you're not addressing the people directly, those you will lose them.
Okay.
So,
we got 10 minutes here.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Joseph Konto, sir, for the record, Mr. Boakai, Senator Nyombli Konga, Mr. Uri, and Senator Dillon never campaigned in Bong, Grand Jita, and Nima County for the CPP candidate.
Mr. Konto, you are right. We were referring to Bomi. They all went to Bomi County. I saw Joseph Boakai there. I saw Mr. Cummings. I saw Nyombli Konga and Darius Dillon there. The only person that were absent from all of these things were Mr. Uri. Mr. Uri never campaigned anywhere that I saw. So you are right on that. What is the code to call in? We just gave you the code. It's scrolling across the line here. It's 605-313-6004. And the code is 791403 hashtag. You can call in and get in few words before we close down. In the meantime, Mr. Eastman, Mr. Sam Waller is there. He said, it doesn't matter what happened in Florida. It's not only what happened in Florida, Sam, wherever you are, that's just how it happens in democracy. People do not vote in by-election, off-year elections in America here. We know that when it comes to the minority, especially the Black community, they only vote in two major elections, presidential and gubernatorial, those two. When it comes to city commissioner, county commissioner, those kinds of elections, minorities don't vote. Little do they know that this country is being run on that level, not the governor and president. That's way beyond your scope. Can you read it?
Yeah, Margaret Dyson, Jerome Gaiman, you know I'm doing a show on your accusations. I have no beef with anyone, and you personally know that. Y'all disagree on Liberia having a governing body? Really? Then why are there leakage almost everywhere? The fart, we smell it. So y'all please, man. So she said there's no governing body. I would say maybe dysfunctional to a degree or not as adept, but no governing. So in other words, nothing is being directed. There has to be some governance there, but of course, there's a room for improvement everywhere. But she said it leaked anywhere, and we always hear things leaking. We heard a leakage from the CDC the other day with the chairman. We heard a leakage from who is doing all this leaking, you know.
But leaking is, you ever heard in the United States something called the Watergate that had the president? Okay, let's go. We have a call. We'll go to the leak and we'll tell you how leaking in this country, in the United States, is a major problem everywhere. Let's go to the call. Caller, where are you calling from? Your name?
Carolina, sir.
Your name and where you calling from?
My name is Joseph Konto, and I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Go ahead, Konto. Let's hear you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gilman, for taking my call. I follow the program. I always follow your program. Great program. But the issue here about these going elections or by-elections, it had to do with House being divided against itself. And it's not just in the CPP. It's also in the CDC with Bong County. In Bong County, the CDC, one side of the CDC will support another candidate, while the vice president will support another candidate. And that also brought problems for them. On the other hand, the CPP, too, they put out a candidate, but then they not campaign for the candidate, for those candidates together as as an organization like they should have done. We saw that in Bowman County, the candidate that were put up there, Boakai were there. In fact, Boakai raised the hand of this candidate. Your Kaga Lauren was there. Senator Dillon were there to campaign for this candidate. But then they abandoned all the other, the 3 other counties, from Nima and that of Grand Junction County. And what is the problem here is that even Joshua Better is a man who is member of the Unity Party, and you are representing the Unity Party, representing the CPP from the Unity Party. The Unity Party did not go to the campaign for him. And that's a problem that I saw. And I see that, like I said, a house divided against itself will never stand. On the issue about this statement that about Hamlet changes. People never understood the background from which the whole statement came about, and they just grabbed it and ran with it. It was not that whoever made the statement was saying that there were changes that were made to the freeway document. It was Hamlet. No, that was not the case. This ANC lawyer have appeared on Spoon Talk. And then Mr. Waterspoon was asking him, so he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, if the letter I is supposed to be a capital I, supposed to be a small I, but it ended up being a capital I, or the O should be a small O and it was a capital O, and you go change the capital I to a small I and change the capital O to a small O, is it not altering the document? When he asked that question, the lawyer speaking from legal standpoint, he said, CEO, let me say this. He said there is something they call harmless changes. The moment he made that statement, they did not give him chance, to complete what he was saying, and they grabbed it and ran with it. That's why you hear it making around all over the place that they said there were harmless changes made to the document. That's what it was. And you and myself know, if you prepare a legal document or any kind of document, you put it through spell check or and what have you, it's going to highlight certain things that need to be changed. If the I is supposed to be a capital I, it will highlight those things that it's supposed to be a capital I. If it changes, does that mean the document has been altered? Of course not. So there where the problem is. So people running with this thing talking about, there were harmless changes made to the document, and the lawyer said, and Mr. Cummings admitted to it. That's not true. And the video are up there. The show is up there. People can watch it and see for themselves. So thank you so much for taking my call, sir.
Thank you. I think he made some salient point, and this is why we say in politics, when you're speaking in public, when your opposition is out there to nail you, you have to be very measured. Even your surrogates. If you can remember, a few years back, John Kerry was running, and he made a statement about voting for a bill that he later on voted against. And when the Bushes nailed him, he said, I was for it before I voted against it. And they took just that particular phrase. I was for it before I went against it. You remember? Yep. And that became the theme that this guy, they portray him as a wishy-washy flip-flopper. He was against it before he was for it. And that was just everywhere. They had it on hat, on T-shirts, on mugs, on everything. So yes, I understand where Mr. Contour is coming from. But when you are speaking, this is why when your surrogates are in public, you give them the talking point. Stick to the talking point.
Yeah.
Just say it, beat it to death. Once you deviate, you are on a witness stand. They didn't ask you a question and you go into that, then they start digging into it. That's what it is. So, Mr. Eastman.
And I want to address one. Stanley asked a question. He said, do you call President Weah a seasoned politician? And Stanley, let me tell you why I do. I'm a very results-oriented person because my job, I've been an engineer for many years, if you don't see a building, if you don't see an architecture, I'm an infrastructure engineer. If you don't see it there, that means I haven't done my job. So the only way I prove to anybody I've done my job is you see my work. The President Weah has won successfully several times, and he's maneuvered in ways that best affect him. At one time, all of them were meeting for debate. Remember, they had that debate in 2017 or something. Mm-hmm. He said, "No, that's for y'all. I don't really need to go there." And it seemed to, and it proved well for him. When you're successful, that's how your skill is measured, and he's been successful throughout. The image people have of you in politics, especially, it's all about what people conceptualize up here, and they look at him as their leader, and they re-elect him again and again and again. So yes, that is why I say he's a seasoned politician, very seasoned. And not only that, I notice now he flies around to certain places, getting information, getting advice, getting counseling. He did it more this gone election than previous election. That is why I know he's making more strategic moves every successive election. That's where I get my opinion from.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to On Point. It's a program of Focus on Liberia. We are here on Sundays between 4 and 5:30. Our time has been fast spent. We don't have any callers. We know there are many comments. And we'd love to reorder your comment, but we just can't because we have another show that's coming on at 6 o'clock. Now, Mr. Eastman, let's touch on this real quick. You just touched on President Weah's adaptability, his ability to learn on the job. And he came in as a novice. He was rough around the edges. And now we are seeing him being polished. A person who is tactical. From what we just saw in these elections, there was a comment here from, I think, Wallow or from somebody who says the CDC brand is so toxic. They don't want to go at CDC anymore. They're going at something else. That shows you how true and how fast these guys are learning on the job. And I'll give you an example. When we were growing up, they took Albert White, a Bassa man from Grand Bassa County, and made him superintendent in Grand Jita. And they took King from Upper Buchanan and made him superintendent in Nimba or Bong, one of those counties. These are folks that didn't speak the people's language, don't know the folks, have absolutely nothing in common with these folks. I'm saying this to say, if McGill or Joel Howard Taylor or Cummings takes a guy that is well dressed and articulate and well nuanced and raises his hands and says, "This is our guy." He has no roots. Nobody knows he has nothing in common with the folks. Unlike before, where you could appoint, now these people have to elect. And Tip O'Neill used to say it. He said, all politics are local. It has to be. If we have not learned that yet, I think the old man, there's an old man that did this song that says, I forgot the name of the song, but he says, chicken doesn't pray for long life, or it doesn't pray for long feather. It prays for long life because he knows if he lays long, the feather is going to grow. Then he says again, there's something intrinsic about power. It weighs you down. And if you put it in the canoe, it causes the canoe to capsize. That's correct. And I'm saying this to say we are not learning from the past. They did it and it didn't work. What made Joel Howard Taylor, Cummings, and McGill think you can take someone from Monrovia, take them to Bone County, raise their hand and say, this is our man, and they will vote for that person? Those days are gone. Politics have weighed some of these guys down, and this is what happened. The boat is capsizing. Until you can self-correct, this is what's going to happen to you every time. And I can see that President Weah and the CDC in other places, they are fielding 2 candidates. 2. They are actually, I'm talking about making a ring around the opposition. So CDC will lose, but CDC will still win. That takes sophistication in politics to come up with that strategy, and your opposition don't even figure it out.
They haven't figured it out yet.
So you are sitting there, and they are so. Jimmy, we got. Let's take the next 4 minutes. Give me your closing statement, and let's go from there and get prepared for the next Sunday.
I'd like to just say something about the way maybe we can keep our representatives, our ministers, our commission accountable. You know, there's a saying, what gets measured gets done. We have a saying. In other words, if you're not measuring how people are performing, then nothing's going to get done. So I think we, as the public, we want to see our leaders measure performance measures so that we keep them in step. It will help everybody. So one of the things that we must think, if we're going to be a progressive people, we have to measure our accomplishments. If you say you did essentially spent millions of dollars of a project and this project is not done, what are you doing? I bet you if you had been measuring how much was you being done, like the LEC project, if you had been measuring it, then you would know nothing was getting done. So time like this, 10 years later, when you still don't have it, then you will not say, but where all the money? We have to measure our progress as we go along. If not, we will not know when we get there. That's all I like to add here today.
Mr. Eastman, you have been a class act. One of the things that I would like to, there was a young man who was a very good friend of mine. May his soul rest in peace. Is my friend Vincent Dillon. We started 7th grade together at Bastrop High School all the way up. May his soul rest in peace. I saw his nephew the other day. He said, all that demonstration you were doing and all of that power, this power, that, all the progressive stuff you were talking, look where our country is. He said the country have degenerated and look where we are. Then I turned around, I said, do you have a minute? He said, yes. I said, sit, let me tell you how far we have come. I said, when you and I were children, we have Rich A. Henry, Speaker of the House. We have Jean A. Pierre, he was Chief Justice. We have Frank Tover, Pro Tem. These people were in position for like 40 years. They basically, they encamped themselves there. E. Reginald Thompson, I could name them. I said, but when I went to Liberia in 2005, after the elections, and the Congress was constituted, there was a young man by the name of Edwin Snow that became Speaker of the House. In so we call normal days, Edwin Snow would never smell the House of Representatives. Forget about being Speaker and overthrowing Richard A. Henry. It was never going to happen. After that, when they got rid of Edwin Snow, there's another young man that came in from Birmingham, of all places. His name is Alex Tyler, became Speaker of the House. He got into a problem. They got rid of him. There's a young man by the name of Jala that came from Bapolu that came in and became Speaker of the House. Can you imagine a Jala, a Tyler, a Snow, people that we didn't know, and you want to tell me there's no progress? I went into the House of Representatives. I'm looking at names I cannot pronounce. And they are sweeping them in. As they come in and they do well. If they don't do well, they sweep them out, bringing new people in. That's how democracy is supposed to be. Let's go to the phone and take the last caller here. Caller, who are you and where you calling from? Caller, where? Yes, go ahead. Where are you calling from and your name?
I'm calling from Georgia. This is Margaret Dyson.
Welcome, Margaret.
Jerome, you just talked
I'm
about
hearing
it.
you.
You said the opposition haven't noticed that if one candidate wins, we will win. Yes, they have noticed it. Yes, that's the political susu. What you didn't add to it was that Ellen is part of the people. I mean, one of the guys that will win too when the wrong candidate wins. And you guys are talking about there's a governing body. Why are you stressing on the fact that there is a little bit of it? What runs in Liberia? Really, tell me what really runs there? What really works for the people there? There is no law and order. So even if a little bit wins, I mean, if a little bit is true, why you want to even push my comment aside and say, oh, well, you're not talking it. Nothing really works. Anything happens, we know. The country is a mess. And you know that what you should be doing your show now is trying to get way out of there and stop talking about the opposition. They didn't notice it. He has ruined the country worse than it has ever been ruined. And you know it, Kevin. Stop it. Okay?
Hey, Ms. Dyson, can I ask you a question? Right?
Yeah, ask me. Go ahead.
Okay. You believe in a democratic system that we should elect our leaders and the most.
Liberia has no real democracy. In the first place, Liberia has no real democracy. You stop talking about that. We need to fix all of that. There's no real. And Jerome needs to stop adding America to the mix. Stop in Liberia. It's not even close there. Stop talking about our elections here and what we do here, Jerome. It has nothing to do with Liberia because they're not even close to it. They're not even to the little toenail. No democracy in our country. What is democracy? And define democracy to the people. And tell me what fits in Liberia. Sir, when you talk about democracy.
Margaret, when you want to
talk about it, the democracy of Liberia.
What do you consider democracy to be?
I ask you a question, define it for your public.
Well, democracy, what we have been fighting for, what we have is that the people have the opportunity to exercise their franchises. They can go and vote for George Weah. They can get rid of him, like they did the last time. They went.
And that too does not work.
But that's the democracy we have. That's the system we have.
Right. That's why I asked you.
When I'm talking about real democracy, even though we do have issues with it in America, Liberia doesn't even come close to that. It doesn't think about what it was with DMO, D-O-M-O. This thing does not work for the people. The people are not in the mix. It's for those who are in power. They gain from everything Liberia. Liberia doesn't work for the people, and you know that. Liberia works for the people that are in power, and that is so sad. Let's talk about that. Just put a show on. Let's talk about that. Call me on there. Let me tell you about it.
Okay.
I'll be your guest on the show. Let me tell you what they're doing to the people. They are messing up the people. You're sitting over there putting candidates in there that are working for only them. The people go to the polls and get elected to get rich. That's not democracy. Don't compare Liberia with America. No, stop it.
So you are recommending a different system for Liberia because you say it's not working. So are you recommending a different system?
The system that you got there where we are, you should be doing a show and get the member over there. Instead, you support him. He killed our people. He's doing all other things. Our people are dying. We have nothing in Liberia. The structure is damaged. Our infrastructure is damaged. There is nowhere to even say there is no zoning laws in the first place. No zoning laws. People build anywhere they want to build. No law for little things. Then you want to talk about democracy? You are democracy that you're talking about only works for the government.
Okay, wait, but let's slow down. Let's slow down. There's something called governance and democracy. Don't confuse the two. Governance is making sure things are getting done.
Nothing works.
Okay.
Right now, it's at that point of just losing her breath.
Okay, Margaret, Ms. Dyson.
We need to do a show for her.
Thank you very much for your comment. We know you are very passionate about your candidate. You are very passionate about our country, and we appreciate that.
No. Don't try to do that. Don't do that. I'm not voting in Liberia. That's not my candidate. There's nothing. I just want someone to take care of my country. I'm just here for Liberia and for my people. So don't twist it. You know that, Jerome. I am not voting. I'm just talking for my people. I grew up in that country. When I've seen the past years, I didn't go through the war, but when I've seen that this is completely wickedness. And I'm talking for my people. I'm not even thinking about going to live there. You know that. It is wrong.
We will bring you.
I do not want to go to Liberia if I have to give my people scraps to eat from my sins, or to put light on the fence and for them to do their homework. If I have to live that, I may as well stay in America. So there's not a kidney. If I see a kidney that professes what I know to be true and what can help, yes, I will push it. When Cummings went on board, I just vote for him. So even I got to beat for him. I don't have a beat for anybody. I got to beat if you're not doing the right thing.
Well, Margaret,
a duck walk like a duck. It's a duck.
we want to bring you on Tough Talking Thursday, so you can come on here and we can discuss, because you have a point. We are listening to you. We love your passion. I think you want to come on Thursday, where we talk Tough Talking Thursday, where you can actually go out and bring the fire.
Okay, on Thanksgiving, I will try to make time for you.
We'll definitely find time for you.
I'll try to make time for you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll look out, we'll call you, and we'll set up something, okay?
All right, yeah. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
God bless. God bless. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we have it. We are talking about, this is what democracy is all about. People can express themselves. People can say things without fear of reprisal. This is democracy. I mean, when you look at the compact agreement that we just talked about, some of the areas that the president, the administration score high on is democracy. The freedom of speech. There are no political prisoners. It is unheard of in an African democracy where there is no political prisoner, where people get up every morning, they can curse the president's mother, you name it. You name it, it happened. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached our way's end. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your call. Thank you for your comment. We look forward to interacting with you next Sunday, same time. Mr. Eastman, like I said earlier, you are a class act. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, we say we are all Liberian, but stay, because we got something great coming up next. And the topic is a critical look at key upcoming elections in Africa. Oh, that would be great. We have Dr. Abdullah Dukle, another brilliant guy. And then we have our Mr. Amara. He's from Sierra Leone. He's brilliant. And then we have my own brother, Mohammed Sharif. Oh, it's going to be tough. And it's going to be moderated by our own Dennis Jar. And stay tuned. You can interact. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, opposition, imposition, government, whoever you are, we say we are all Liberian. We are doing it for the betterment of our country. And we see you next Sunday. We go out with our song that says, we are all Liberians.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.